very good morning to all. So today's topic is ocular association of systemic disorders. So eye as an individual organ has its diseases. Also it acts like a window by which we can see or we can detect the systemic diseases. Now what are the systemic diseases? They are multiple. We are just briefly categorized in nutritional disorders, infectious diseases, autoimmune disorders and tumors. Mainly nutritional disorder which relates to eye, that is vitamin A deficiency. Okay, in infectious diseases they may be viral etiology, fungal etiology, parasitic and bacterial. In viral which relates to eye, that is herpes simplex, congenital rubella, cytomegalovirus and AIDS, HIV virus. In fungal, that is candida and cryptococcus. In parasitic infection, it may be toxoplasmosis, toxocariasis, cysticercosis, and in bacterial etiology, mainly it is tuberculosis, leprosy and syphilis. In immunological disorders, they are multiple. They are rheumatoid arthritis, SLE, sarcoidosis, giant cell arthritis, and many more. Now mainly in this lecture we are going to learn about ocular association of HIV and ocular association of tuberculosis. Now what is HIV? That is human immunodeficiency virus. Name itself suggests that immunodeficiency, that it acts on CD4 plus T lymphocyte and that results in decrease in the CD4 plus T lymphocyte count, and there are multiple opportunistic infection that leads to a disease that is called acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Okay. Now 70 to 75% of these patients infected with HIV will develop ocular involvement. Now we will see that what are the ocular manifestation. So mode of infection, that is by direct infection by HIV. Then second most common is by opportunistic infections with other organism. Third is because of the control over the cell mitosis that is lost, that results in neoplasia, and fourth one is drug related. Now we divide into manifestation into adnexal, anterior segment, posterior segment and neuro-ophthalmic manifestation. What are the adnexal manifestation? They are herpes zoster ophthalmicus, Kaposi sarcoma, molluscum contagiosum and conjunctival microvasculopathy. Now what is adnexal? That is lid and lacrimal apparatus and conjunctiva. Okay. Now what is herpes zoster ophthalmicus? That is opportunistic infection by herpes zoster virus. As you can see in this picture that it manifests as maculopapular vesicular rash. It involves upper lid and does not cross other line, the midline. It also involves cornea, that is keratitis, scleritis, uveitis, retinitis, and also involves various cranial nerves and leads to cranial nerve palsies. Now what is Kaposi sarcoma? As you can see in this picture, it mimics like chalazion and subconjunctival hemorrhage. Okay, so that if patient is known case of HIV and the manifestation is like this, you should have suspicion of this Kaposi sarcoma, that is brown color nodule in the upper lid, that is non-tender nodule formation in the lids, and also in conjunctiva that the nodule that mimics the subconjunctival hemorrhage, it might have the Kaposi sarcoma. Now what is molluscum contagiosum? The molluscum contagiosum, that is highly contagious dermatitis caused by DNA pox virus. As you can see in this upper picture, that is umbilicated nodular lesion that is painless and they are multiple. Okay. So they are very infective. Now what is conjunctival microvasculopathy? That 80% of this HIV positive patients, we are going to see this conjunctival microvasculopathy. That is mainly due to immune complex deposition in this microvasculature that leads to segmental vascular dilatation. That you can see in second picture, that is segmental vascular dilatation and tortuosity. Okay, that is microaneurysm formation and coma shape, that vessels, fragmentation. And last but not least is keratoconjunctivitis sicca. That is the HIV-mediated inflammation and damage to lacrimal glands that leads to decrease in tear production. Okay, so artificial tears and lubricating ointment we have to provide. In infectious keratitis, mainly because of virus, herpes simplex and varicella zoster virus. Also, there is iridocyclitis. The etiology of iridocyclitis in HIV positive patients includes sequelae of retinitis or retinochoroiditis, or because of the heart treatment, drug toxicity, also secondary to direct effect by HIV into the epithelium of ciliary body. The first mechanism is this, direct infection. Second is by opportunistic infection like cytomegalo, herpes simplex and varicella zoster, and in association with other opportunistic toxoplasmosis, tuberculosis or bacterial or fungal retinitis. Okay, that is all related to adnexal and anterior segment involvement. Now what is posterior segment manifestation? That is called HIV retinopathy or HIV related retinopathy. Now what is HIV retinopathy? That is most common. Okay, so posterior segment involvement accounts for 50% of manifestation in HIV positive patients. The symptoms are mainly floaters and flashing of light, but when it involves macula, that leads to diminution of vision. Okay, presence of RAPD, that is relative afferent pupillary defect, that suggests significant retinal or optic nerve involvement. Now what is HIV retinopathy? HIV retinopathy that can be seen in posterior segment. In posterior segment, 50% to 70% of HIV infected patient presents with this HIV retinopathy. They are because of again immune complex deposition or direct effect by this virus on retinal vascular endothelium. Okay, so what are the findings? Can you see that yellowish, irregular, fluffy-like deposits? They are the cotton wool spots. So what is the pathophysiology behind this? Because of this immune complex deposition in the arterioles, there is HIV that is called the retinal microvasculopathy because of arterial occlusion. Because of arterial occlusion, there is ischemia, local ischemia. That is because of this local ischemia, there is impairment of exoplasmic flow. So this exoplasmic flow stasis leads to accumulation of debris and it manifests as cotton wool spots. Okay, so in HIV retinopathy, most common finding is cotton wool spots. Okay, so apart from cotton wool spot, there is retinal hemorrhage because of retinal ischemia and vascular dilatation leads to venous rupture and retinal hemorrhages. Also road spots and microaneurysm. Okay, so this is HIV retinopathy. Now what is HIV related retinochoroiditis? HIV related retinochoroiditis is mainly because of opportunistic infection in which most common is virus etiology, that is cytomegalovirus followed by zoster virus, and least common is herpes simplex. In other organism that includes bacteria, parasites and fungi, but after virus that is fungi, that is candida and cryptococci, and bacteria and parasites are also there. Now we are going to learn about mainly virus HIV related retinochoroiditis. So that is cytomegalovirus retinitis, acute retinal necrosis ARN, progressive outer retinal necrosis, toxoplasma and tuberculosis. Tuberculosis we are going to learn in detail later on. Okay, now what is cytomegalovirus retinitis? The cytomegalovirus retinitis, that is the most common intraocular infection, opportunistic infection in this HIV positive patient, posterior segment involvement. When it occurs, when there is CD4 count less than 50 by microliter. Okay, so as you can see in the lower picture that it presents as the lesion is like yellowish brush fire pattern like appearance. The leading edge appears like brush fire. Okay, so that is brush fire appearance. Sometimes because of rapid progressive retinal infiltrates along with retinal necrosis that leads to hemorrhage inside it. So sometimes there is scramble egg or ketchup or pizza pie appearance. So that is sometimes common MCQ is asked that the scramble egg or ketchup or pizza pie appearance of the lower picture that is suggestive of the cytomegalovirus retinitis. Okay, can you see in this picture? So that is pizza pie or ketchup or scrambled egg appearance. Okay, now what is acute retinal necrosis, ARN? That is fulminant necrotizing retinitis caused by herpes simplex virus or cytomegalovirus. That is the most emergency or acute emergent condition because within 24 hours whole retina is necrotized by this opportunistic infection in the HIV positive patient. So here retina shows multiple small necrotic yellowish lesion in periphery, as you can see in this picture. Most often it involves peripheral retina and it rapidly progresses to involve central macular area. So here we have to admit that patient. We have to start immediately intravenous acyclovir or antiviral treatment along with corticosteroids. Okay, so this acute retinal necrosis is highly emergency condition. It is also associated with uveitis, anterior uveitis, vitritis and retinal choroidal vasculitis. Okay, so this is all about ARN. Similar to this, there is progressive outer retinal necrosis, that is by zoster. That ARN is caused by simplex or also varicella zoster simplex and cytomegalo. This is varicella zoster virus retinitis. But here the picture is same as like this. It is an emergency condition. But here the vitritis and retinal vasculitis is absent. It usually starts centrally and progress peripherally. Okay. Now, why this PORN also it has emergency condition, but it has very slowly progressive course. But it starts from central lesion that is involving macula. That patients are coming with this lesion many more. But because ARN is starting from periphery, the patients usually delay in appearance. Okay. Now tuberculosis we are coming it later on. What is toxoplasma retinochoroiditis? That is the usual ocular lesion of toxoplasmosis is focal chorioretinitis. Okay. That is the characteristic of toxoplasma retinochoroiditis. It has single focal lesion with overlying vitritis. Okay, so in immunocompetent patient, you can see in above picture that you can there is the surrounding scar of previous infection. Okay, and you can see the yellowish lesion surrounding that scar. But in immunocompromised, you can see that single focal lesion of that toxoplasma retinochoroiditis. Okay. Toxoplasmosis in immunocompromised patient is not self-limiting. But in immunocompetent patient, it is self-limiting. Okay. So this is all about posterior segment involvement. So we have seen adnexal, anterior segment and posterior segment. Now what is neuro-ophthalmological manifestation in HIV? That is least common compared to the previous manifestations. Now what are the neuro-ophthalmological manifestations? They are related to meningitis or neurosyphilis or toxoplasmosis. Also there is direct involvement by neuroretinitis. Okay. Papilloedema due to raised intracranial tension and cranial nerve palsies. Okay, so these are neuro-ophthalmological manifestation. What are the orbital manifestations? They are immunocompromised state. So there is orbital lymphoma, orbital cellulitis due to aspergillus infection and orbital Kaposi sarcoma. Okay, so one is entity is there, fetal AIDS associated embryopathy. As you can see in this picture, that there is downward obliquity of eyes of that newborn, prominent palpebral fissure, hypertelorism, that is widely placed orbit, and blue sclera, that is fetal AIDS associated embryopathy. Okay, so these are all the findings or manifestation of HIV in eye. Okay, so we conclude that in most common, that is NTA segment. Okay, so that is in adnexa we should look for the Kaposi sarcoma or conjunctival microvasculopathy, or there is opportunistic infection. But in anterior segment, maybe keratitis or iridocyclitis. In posterior segment, HIV retinopathy or HIV related retinopathy. In HIV retinopathy, mainly cotton wool spots because of ischemia, because immune complex deposition. In HIV related retinopathy, that is opportunistic infection, mainly virus. And in virus, that is cytomegalovirus retinitis. And in neuro-ophthalmological manifestation, that is optic neuritis, okay, and cranial nerve palsies. And in orbit, there is orbital lymphoma or orbital Kaposi sarcoma. Okay. Now, what is the next is ocular association of tuberculosis. Now, what is tuberculosis? That is chronic granulomatous inflammation or infection by Mycobacterium tuberculosis, that is characterized by necrotizing granuloma formation. So, necrotizing granuloma, that is a characteristic of this Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Now, how it is related to eye? Okay. So, ocular TB incidence is 1 to 5.74%. Mainly, ocular tuberculosis is extrapulmonary form, but primary infection of eye is also there. It is, although it is very rare. Secondary ocular tuberculosis result of hematogenous spread from distant direct invasion of that tuberculosis, like skin or cranial cavity or hypersensitivity response to distant infection. Okay, so what is the you are mostly knowing that the primary organs of tuberculosis. What are the primary organs? The organs which have high oxygen concentration. Okay, that is like apices of lungs, kidney, which has end arteries. Okay, our choroid. Okay, so they are the highly oxygen. They contain high oxygen content. So the primary organs are like this. Okay, so apices of lungs, kidneys, meninges, eye, and eye inside eye, that is choroid. So, and the hallmark of extrapulmonary TB is granuloma formation. Now, here also we divide this presentation into adnexal, anterior segment, posterior segment, neuro-ophthalmic manifestation, and here that is important is drug-related toxicity to the TB infected patients. Okay, what are the now adnexal manifestation? That is lupus vulgaris and eyelid tuberculous granuloma. Now, what is lupus vulgaris? As you can see in this picture, that is a painless reddish brown nodule formation. That is a plaque-like formation. Okay, that is here in all the manifestation. You should remember that there is lymphadenopathy. Okay, in chronic tuberculous infection, always it is accompanied by lymphadenopathy. So, surrounding lead structure, if it appears like this, you should suspect this lupus vulgaris. Okay, so in all these in manifestation, we have to give AKT to prevent recurrence. Okay. Now, what is eyelid tubercular granuloma? As you can see in this picture, we can easily take this patient as a patient of chalazion. Okay, so that is brown non-tender nodule. Okay, so and chronic course. But if it is associated with lymphadenopathy and in chronic course, if it is associated with ulceration formation, okay, and we can do that biopsy and we can see that if there is tuberculosis, then we have to give AKT to prevent recurrence. Okay. Now, what is anterior segment involvement? There are there are various manifestations in anterior segment, but what we have to look for is flictanular. What is important is flictanular keratoconjunctivitis. What we are seeing more commonly, that is flictanular and tuberculous conjunctivitis. We are frequently missing also. We are not suspecting tuberculous conjunctivitis. Okay, so flictanular is most common and iridocyclitis, that is most common. Okay, that others are rare. The tubercular conjunctivitis is unilateral if it is primary, but if it is secondary to lungs, it may be bilateral. Okay, it is also associated with mucoid discharge, not purulent discharge. Large follicle formation. If it is associated with chronic course, then it might get ulceration. Okay, along with pre-auricular lymphadenopathy is seen. What is treatment of this conjunctivitis? That we have to give antibiotic, but here with AKT. Don't forget to give AKT. Okay. The second is conjunctival granuloma. Because of that tuberculous lesion is characteristically associated with non-casiatic granuloma formation. Here, if it is chronic course, then usually occurs due to tuberculosis, but can be associated with Staphylococcal aureus superinfection. Okay, so here also treatment is same: excision, antibiotic, AKT. Now, what is flictanular keratoconjunctivitis? The flictanular is, as you can see in this picture, that there is ciliary injection, okay, profuse ciliary injection associated with tiny dots at limbus, whitish pinkish nodules. Okay, so that is hypersensitivity reaction type 4, hypersensitivity reaction to tuberculous proteins. It is not direct infection by this tuberculous bacilli. Okay, so how do you identify? How to differentiate that flictane has characteristic that there is no clear zone between limbus and that lesion. Okay, so flictane is characteristic at limbus. Sometimes because of chronicity, chronicity, that might get ulcerate, that leads to flictanular ulcer formation. Most of the patients respond to topical application of corticosteroids, but we have to look for recurrences. Okay, so sometimes we have to give AKT. Okay, most of the patients that recover by that topical application of corticosteroids, but because it is hypersensitivity reaction. Okay, tuberculous scleritis, that is same presentation as scleritis by other organism. That is localized focal elevated nodules of sclera, as you can see in this picture. Okay, there is deeper inflammation. Okay. Now, what is interstitial keratitis? That is interstitial, it is a stromal keratitis. Okay, without involvement of overlying epithelium or underlying endothelium. Okay, and inflammation is mostly immune mediated. So treatment is AKT plus topical steroids and cycloplegia. Now, what is the second most common in anterior segment? That is anterior uveitis. Most of the patients coming with anterior uveitis, we are going to advise that chest X-ray and Montauk's test. Why? Because tuberculosis is very common cause for this anterior uveitis. Okay, how patient presents? That diminution or blurring of vision with photophobia or lacrimation and redness. On presentation, there is bilateral chronic granulomatous disease with large mutton fat keratic precipitates with broad band posterior synechia and iris or angle granulomas. Okay. So iris nodules are, if it is at pupillary border, then it is Coppe nodule. If it is on surface, that is Bashaka nodules. As you can see in this picture, that is first picture is of festoon pupillae. Second is nodule that you can see at the pupillary border. That is Coppe's nodule. Third is mutton fat capes. Okay. The fourth is same, mutton fat capes with profuse nodule formation. So, mostly anterior uveitis is accompanied by vitritis, that is spillover vitritis. It is, the complication is cataract formation and glaucoma. So, here treatment is same, antituberculous treatment. We have to give to prevent recurrences, and topical systemic, topical is antibiotic, steroids and cycloplegia, atropine. Okay. Now, this is anterior segment is over. Now, what is anterior intermediate uveitis? The anterior uveitis is the structure, the iris and in ciliary body, that involvement of pars plicata. Now what is intermediate? That when there is involvement of pars plana of ciliary body, that is intermediate uveitis. In intermediate uveitis, the characteristic feature is the profuse development of vitritis. Okay, so in vitritis, there is chronic low-grade vitritis with snowballs because of high-grade inflammation. There is the collection of inflammatory cells which gravitate and they are forming balls. That is called snowball opicities, as you can see in this picture. Okay, snowball opicities and snow banking. Can you see in this picture and lower down? Okay, the involvement of pars plana area and vitritis, because of profuse vitritis, inflammatory cells gravitate inferiorly. You can see the ball-like formation and snow banking in the second picture. Okay. The complication mainly because in the posterior segment, that is epiretinal membrane, optic disc paler, peripheral neovascular retinal detachment and vitreous hemorrhage. The treatment is similar. We have to give AKT and systemic steroids. Okay. Now what is posterior segment? What are the posterior segment manifestation? So in anterior segment, up to anterior segment we have seen. Now what are the posterior segment? That is choroidal tubercles, tuberculoma, serpiginous like choroiditis and subretinal abscess. Okay. Now what are the tubercles? So as you can see, that is tiny yellowish subretinal nodules. Okay. So they are less than 5 up to 15 number, unilateral or bilateral nodule. Mainly it is composition is inflammatory cells. Okay. Now what are the they are seen mainly in miliary tuberculosis, okay, or CNS tuberculosis. Treatment is same. AKT we have to give. Generally they are taking 3 to 4 months to heal completely and results in chorioretinal atrophic scar. Okay, so they are clear. What is tubercles? They are very tiny nodule, okay, subretinal location, mostly posterior pole they are located and they are very multiple. Now what is tuberculoma? So when choroidal tubercles continues to grow and form a one mass-like lesion, so that is called tuberculoma. Okay, they are usually solitary nodule, okay, and they are large and single in number. So mimicking choroidal tumor. So we have to do B scan to see internal reflectivity. Okay. So in ultrasonography, these lesions are solid elevated mass with moderate to low internal reflectivity. And if associated with high Montauk stage level, we have to suspect this choroidal tuberculoma. Again, treatment is antituberculosis treatment, AKT. So serpiginous like choroiditis is same, that is, but appearance is serpiginous, that is active advancing age, okay, and it mainly starts from surrounding optic disc and it expands gradually. So it is a bilateral chronic progressive inflammation that primarily involves choroid and choriocapillaries. Okay, so that is chorioretinitis. Okay. Usually starts peripapillary area and spreads centrifugally. Same we have to suspect if it is associated with other chest X-ray findings. We have to give antituberculous treatment along with corticosteroids. Okay, why we have to give corticosteroids? To reduce inflammation-induced damage to RPE and photoreceptors. And why we don't have to give alone steroids? Because if tuberculous bacilli are there, they are going to multiply profusely and leads to damage aggressively. Now what is subretinal abscess? So that is a vast, or that is the worst manifestation of this ocular tuberculosis. So can you see in this picture that the multiplication of the bacilli in caseous material of the granuloma can lead to this necrosis and abscess formation. Okay, and it is accompanied by with exudative retinal detachment, and patient mostly is of disseminated tuberculosis. If we found this subretinal abscess, patient definitely is having disseminated tuberculosis. Okay. Usually that is rare, but ocular lesion might heal, but the overall the general gross feature of this patient is poor prognosis. Okay. Visual recovery is saying good, but practically it is it relates to chorioretinal atrophic patches, and mostly it is involving macula. Okay. And subsequently there is a formation of CNVM through that atrophic scar. These are all about posterior segment features. Now what is Eales disease? What Eales disease is idiopathic, mostly idiopathic bilateral occlusive periphlebitis and neovascularization. There are theories that the etiology of Eales disease is not known, but the studies have proven that the etiology with tuberculosis is confirmed. So that is a hypersensitivity reaction again that leads to first periphlebitis because of extensive inflammation around the vessels that leads to occlusion, and because of occlusion there is ischemia and neovascularization. Okay, so there is triad in this. There is periphlebitis, occlusion and neovascularization. Okay, so complication is mainly tractional retinal detachment. Because of ischemia there is rubeosis, glaucoma and cataract. So treatment here same, that systemic corticosteroids, antituberculosis, and if there is neovascularization we have to give pan-retinal photocoagulation, and if there is complication like tractional retinal detachment we have to go for pars plana vitrectomy. Visual prognosis is usually good. Okay. Now last is the second last is neuro-ophthalmic manifestation. So what are the neuro-ophthalmic manifestation? That is papillitis, papilloedema, neuritis, retrobulbar neuritis or neuroretinitis. Optic neuritis is basically of three types. Either it is retrobulbar behind the optic disc, in which we cannot see or patient cannot see. Okay. The second is papillitis, that is optic nerve head involvement. And third is neuroretinitis, that is retina and optic nerve both are involved. Okay. So the patient presents with sudden painful loss of vision. As you can see, this is a picture of papillitis. Okay. Along with vitreous haze, hyperemia of the disc, blurring of disc margin, and later on optic atrophy. Here we have to give methylprednisolone 1 gram intravenously 5 days, followed by systemic steroids and along with AKT. Now what are the drug related toxicity in tuberculosis infected patient? Ethambutol. Sometimes patients are presented to us we are from tuberculosis department, TBCD department, that we have to give fitness to the drugs. So what we have to look, why we have to check that patient? So some drugs are causing ocular toxicity. Okay, so ethambutol is, the ocular side effects are optic neuritis, color vision, especially red green, and visual field defects. Okay, so, they are dose and duration dependent. So the daily dose, they are 6% at a daily dose of 25 milligram per kg, and rare with daily dose not extending to 15 milligram per kg. And duration is, we can give till 6 months. Beyond that, there are side effects. Rifampicin is orange red discoloration of tears. Isoniazid is again optic neuritis. Rifabutin mostly not used in this, but it can cause anterior uveitis. So treatment is, if the patient develops toxic effect to these drugs, then we have to discontinue that drug. Okay. These are the dosage schedule of isoniazid, rifampicin, ethambutol and pyrazinamide. Okay, so this is all about tuberculosis. Okay, so NTS we have seen Adnexal, anterior segment, posterior segment. neuroophthalmic and the drug related toxicity. Okay. Now, there's some minor topic like what are the nutritional deficiency in which there is vitamin A deficiency, that is called xerophthalmia. Okay, so it is common in developing countries. WHO has graded this vitamin A deficiency into one score, that is X1A, that is conjunctival xerosis, that conjunctiva loses its shiny appearance. Okay, that is the lusterless shiny appearance. It becomes rough. Okay. Now X1B is Bitot sport. So can you see in this picture that in temporal side there is frothy, there is wrinkle structure, and there is lusterless cornea, that is Bitot spot. Okay. And the X2 is corneal xerosis, as you can see in that above picture, that is corneal xerosis. In X3, corneal ulceration less than 1/3 of total corneal area. And X3B, that is corneal ulceration if it involves more than 1/3 of the cornea. XN, that is night blindness. XF, that is fundal changes, that is typical RP photoreceptor damage because of decrease in retinoid. Okay, so that is sago green appearance. Okay, and XS is corneal scarring. So what is the treatment of vitamin A deficiency? So WHO has graded, and also WHO recommended schedule like all the patients above age of 1 year. If patients develop any stage of this xerophthalmia, we should administer this vitamin A dosage. So all the patients above age of 1 year, we should administer 2 lakh international unit of vitamin A orally or 1 lakh international unit by IM injection on 0, 1 and 4 weeks later. Okay. So 3 doses. If children under age of 1 year and children of any age who weight less than 8 kg, we should administer half dosage of this. Okay. So 1 lakh international unit of vitamin A orally or 50,000 IM injection. Clear? Now, women of reproductive age, those having XN or conjunctival xerosis or Bitot spot should be treated with daily dosage of 10,000 international unit of vitamin A orally for 2 weeks. Okay? But if there is corneal xerophthalmia, then full dosage schedule as described above. Okay? And associated condition like protein energy malnutrition or diarrhea or dehydration, electrolyte imbalance should be treated. Sometimes vitamin A prophylaxis, not treatment. Okay, prophylaxis is also given by WHO. This is the prophylaxis for infants, children, women of postpartum and pregnant and lactating women. That is prophylaxis schedule for vitamin A. It is not associated that patient has developed xerophthalmia or not, but this is for prophylaxis. Now there are also very toxoplasma that I have covered, toxocara, and sometimes autoimmune condition. But sometimes we are finding that the patients are having multiple hemorrhages like rod spots. Okay, they are having and we are just investigating. We found that the patient are having leukemia or lymphoma. Okay, so tumors are also present to us first time as rod spots. Okay, so we should look for this manifestations or sign thoroughly. Okay, so I already told that eye always acts like a window to a systemic diseases. Okay, so thank you. Read tuberculosis and HIV and other systemic manifestation. I think TB, diabetes and hypertension has been covered. Okay, that is also very important. Okay, thank you.